Hello there, boxing fans around the world. Thanks for joining me once again here on Boxing News today. And let's start off with a bit of a surprise. Sandy Ryan and Jesse McCaskill went toe to toe on the weekend, the same weekend that I think Joe Joyce has been knocked out of action for the rest of his life. Anyway, let's start off with what happened to Sandy Ryan. I'll tell you this story courtesy of ESPN.com. No point in mincing words here. This is what Michael Rothstein, one of their staff writers, had to say. Sandy Ryan won on Saturday night. Sandy Ryan lost on Saturday night. In the world of boxing, both things can be very true. While Ryan and Jesse McCaskill fought to a split draw in their unified welterweight championship in Orlando, Florida, boxing did what boxing does better than anything else in sports right now: create unneeded and silly controversy over judging. Now, how many times have you heard here on Talk and Fight us telling you that that could all be solved by the use of new technology that is available right now? And quite frankly, the technology team at Talking Fight could deliver it to any fight right now in the world. Anyway, let's continue with the story. It's not clear what fight judge Mark Streisand was watching with his 97-93 scorecard for McCaskill. Michael Ross, by the way, had the fight 96-94 for Ryan, and Barry Lindman had it 95-95. But, says the author, it was not the fight I saw watching on television from hundreds of miles away. The zone commentators were apoplectic over the Streisand scorecard, and they weren't wrong. Ryan did everything possible to win the fight. She controlled the ring, controlled the pace, had the sounder strategy, and landed the more impactful shots throughout 10 rounds. Other than the third round, where McCaskill got Ryan's nose to bleed, there was not a clear round for McCaskill the whole night, although the 2 to 3 that could have gone either way. So Ryan lost in the draw because, in the eyes of many observers, including this one, she beat McCaskill. She won because in her first fight outside of Europe, she gained fans who might not have seen her fight before. It was Ryan who received cheers from the crowd during the post-fight in Orlando, not McCaskill, who was booed. Let's move along to our friend Zhilei Zhang, who absolutely clobbered Joe Joyce in their prior fight, as you might recall. He closed his eyes. Well, one of his eyes shut closed, period. And therefore, that fight was, as we all know, called to a halt. Anyway, let's have a quick read here. Let's see what sportnews.com has to say. I'm going to give you a couple of views of this one, okay? First one, as I said, sportnews.com. The more Zhilei Zhang tagged Joe Joyce on Saturday, the more uncomfortable I became. A boxer is taught to avoid shots completely or roll with them at the very least. However, in both Zhang-Joyce fights, the latter was continuously tagged as flush as a baseball bat striking the center of a melon. Despite admitting he was completely unprepared for Zhang's southpaw's stance back in April when he lost via 6-round stoppage that I just described, Joyce made no significant tactical adjustments for the rematch, despite all of his claims leading up to this fight. Anyway, as early as round 2, he was being clattered by the Chinese southpaw's straight left hand, and it was a single right hook that ended matters in the third. And we've all seen the fight recaps now. I'm sure we've seen the pictures of Joyce just lying on the floor. Anyway, let's move along to boxingnews24.com and what they're screaming about. Possibly Joyce re-entering the ring. I find that hard to believe. Anyway, fighting as often as possible is the key to Joyce being rebuilt. But the problem with that is there are only so many dates for him to fight. It's not like he can fight every weekend. There's a commentator at the fight, Adi Aladipo. Fighting as often as possible is the key. Okay, it was a world title on the line, said Adi. I understand why you take the rematch because you want to try and get your belts back. There wasn't a world title on the line. Yes, maybe there was a mandatory spot or a world eliminator spot, but there wasn't a world title. So maybe there'll be people that are asked these questions, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure whether we'll see Joyce back in the ring. He's saying, now you can't take that kind of punishment in the heavyweight division and it not catch up to you. I'm sorry, you can't. In the lighter divisions, it catches up to everyone. I've been watching sport long enough. People take that kind of punishment. Eventually, it catches up to you. The head is not supposed to be hit that hard, let alone by guys that walk around 17, 18, 19 stone. And Joe Joyce has taken too much punishment. Someone was going to get to him, and Zhilei Zhang got to him. It's just that simple, said Ade. Good for him. So, what are Joe Joyce's career options? Now, I guess if you speak to his promoter, he has lots of options. But according to worldboxingnews.net, with doubts over his career, Joyce has three solid options to consider. One of them, of course, is retirement. Joyce is 37 years old, and he's not getting any younger as a boxer, and he's also been beaten up, stopped, and knocked out in his last two bouts. Nonetheless, a rematch with Daniel Dubois works for Frank Warren as a main event. The pair fought during the pandemic with Joyce halting Dubois. And the last of the three choices would be to target Tony Yoka. Maybe after a lower key comeback win, the rivals have history after Joyce lost a controversial Olympic final at Rio in 2016. So, where does Joyce go? Who knows? I do believe I have a story coming up where Eddie Hearn, of all people, have said Anthony Joshua would be up for fighting him, of course. Who wouldn't be up for fighting Joe Joyce now? Anyway, um, Frank Warren may have seen two of his top heavyweight fighters lose recently, with Daniel Dubois losing to Alexander Usyk and with Joe Joyce losing in simply devastating fashion to Zhilei Zhang. But all is not lost, as the promoter has options on the man who defeated Joyce. Zhilei Zhang, a superstar in China, and also one of the most high-profile, interesting, and exciting heavyweights out there today, regardless of where they're from, has seemingly got a number of big fight options courtesy of his highlight reel knockout of Joyce. And again, this is coming courtesy of boxing247.com. And Warren, like many of us, wants to see Zhang fight three-belt heavyweight ruler Alexander Usyk. While there's also the possibility that Big Bang could fight Tyson Fury. I doubt it. You doubt it. Or Anthony Joshua. And Eddie Hearn has said he would have no problem talking about making that fight. So, speaking after the fight, Warren spoke about what he thinks would happen if Zhang fought WBA IBF WO champ Usyk. He said, "It's been tough with Daniel Dubois and now Joyce losing. But Zhang's with us. He's promoted by Queensbury. He's the WBO interim champion, and he'll be fighting the full WBO champion next year because it'll be ordered. And he's with us. Listen, if he catches Usyk with one of those shots, he'll hurt him, won't he? It's two southpaws as well, so that'll be interesting. He's not a boy. He knows what Usyk's weaknesses are. I think Zhang's in the top four best heavyweights right now. I think he gives anybody problems. Look at the Hrgovic fight. I felt Zhang won that fight. He's no slouch, and he showed what power he has with the Joyce win. He showed his boxing ability in the first fight, and he showed his power in this fight. So not bad for a 40-year-old. But it's interesting, somewhere else I had read that Eddie Hearn said Zhang is not an elite heavyweight fighter. He's a world-class heavyweight fighter. So war of the words, and it continues. And for most of us fans, we just like to see a good fight, start to finish, and hopefully not decided by the judges. Anyway, over in Long Beach, California, in front of a full house at the Thunder Studios, Marv Nation Promotions presented a 7-bout fight card on Saturday night. The original main event, featuring the pro debut of Marco Antonio Barrera Jr., was scratched the day before, so the card was reshuffled with two co-featured bouts. Middleweight Andrew Buchanan moved his record to 3-0 by outslugging Mexico's Freddy Galazar 2-1, one knockout in a 6-round fight. Scores were 59-55 and 60-54, all for Buchanan. And in the co-featured fight, Yadira Bustilis 8-1, outslicked and outboxed a very game and tough Catherine Lindenmuth, who's now 5-2, in a fast-paced 8-round female minimum weight bout. Elsewhere over in Argentina, featherweight prospect Laureano Scueto, 13-1, out of Argentina, avoided the upset of Johan Segura, who's 12-2 out of Colombia, by winning a majority decision on Saturday night at the Club Social y Deportivo y Porteños in Quilmes, Buenos Aires. I should not have tried to read that location. Anyway, Segura came out strong in the first half of the fight, banging at the body of Squito while landing several eye-catching headshots. Segura moved slowly down the second half of the fight, where Squito countered and piled up some points. The judges in the end had it 97-93, 96-94 for Squito, and 95-95 even. The event was promoted by Marcos Medina out of Chino Promotions. We also saw, by the way, we were talking about this fight last week. Unbeaten WO number 4, IBF number 7, super lightweight Richardson Hitchens, who's now 17-0, 7 knockouts. Outbox WBC number 6, WBO number 11, Jose Zapita, who's now 37-4, over 12 one-sided rounds on Saturday night at the Caribe Royale in Orlando, Florida. The 25-year-old Richardson Hitchens was taking a large step in class with Zapita, the victor of a brutal candidate for Fight of the Year in 2020. Hitchens, however, outclassed Zapita from the onset with a technical, albeit defensive style, with each successive round a carbon copy of the last. Good for him. We'll talk about Conor Benn in a couple of minutes. We talked about Sandy Ryan and Jesse McCaskill. Again, very controversial decision. Most, even that writer, has Sandy Ryan winning, but Jesse McCaskill got her draw. Results from Hammond, Indiana. We rarely get results from Indiana. Damon Howard's 4 Champs Promotions put on a quick and entertaining 4-bout card at the Gene Shepherd's Community Center in Hammond, Indiana on Saturday night. Debuting super middle Alan Fascio took on Robbie Thomas in the main event. After 2 throwdowns, Fascio legally put Thomas down for good with a non-stop barrage in the corner. And the end was 1 minute, 42 seconds of round number 1. Fascio started out 1-0, 1 knockout, while Thomas goes 0-7. Elsewhere, we noticed that there's fighting going on in Germany. Heavyweight Tom Schwartz, a man we don't discuss much on Talkin' Fight, but we should, because he's 27-1 with 19 knockouts, whose only loss is to Tyson Fury. Got all he could handle from rugged journeyman Konstantin Dovbychenko, 10-13-1. And that was also held on Saturday night at the G-Tech Arena in Germany. Hometown hero Schwartz got away with a 97-93, 97-93, 97-94 decision. And after the bout, Schwartz declared, "I am back." Also, Super WBA Super Middleweight champ Tyron Zugi, 27-1-1, 50 knockouts, won a unanimous decision over Nasir Bukenya. Down once. Scores were 79-72, 80-71, 80-71, and unbeaten light heavyweight Adrian Krajnicki, 6-0, 6 knockouts, knocked out Deniz Altz. He's 50-11 with a body shot at 133 of the opening round. Krajnicki is the new nephew of former heavyweight contender Luan Krajnicki. Wow, very good stuff. Over in Japan, former 2-division champ Horito Kayaguchi, 18-1, 12 knockouts, scored a lethal left hook to the belly and finished Filipino flyweight Jervan Mama for the count at 3 minutes 9 seconds of the third session in a scheduled 10-rounder on Friday night. That was held in Tokyo, Japan. Having been beaten and dethroned by Kenshiro Chirashi, by the way, in 108-pound unification bout last November, Hirito appeared in a second comeback bout, displayed good form to impress the crowd. After mixing up toe-to-toe to win the first 2 sessions with ease, Kaguchi swarmed over the Filipino Mama, overweight by a pound. Then the contract stipulation exploded a vicious body shot that obviously hurt Mama, who very barely stood up, only to be unable to resume fighting. Rito, 29, said, "I look forward to winning the 3rd division belt." Good stuff, eh? And one last one to report here. Do you remember ex-OPBF 2-division champ Yuji Watanabe, 25-5? a very popular knockout artist in the 90s who unfortunately failed to win world belts from Gennaro Hernandez and from Wilfredo Vasquez in 92 and 97, respectively. His cousin, WBC number 22, Suzumi Takayama, 7-0, 6 knockouts. A southpaw hard puncher like his uncle, impressively turned the tables and kept his Japanese Superfly belt by scoring a fine technical knockout victory over former WBO AP ruler and JBC number 1, Tsubasa Morachi, who's now 10-2-1 with 3 knockouts at 2 minutes 44 seconds of the 8th round in a scheduled 10-rounder over in Tokyo. Good stuff. All righty. Upcoming fights that we're looking forward to. Top heavyweight Frank the Cuban Flash Sanchez will highlight the stacked 3-fight Showtime pay-per-view countdown as he takes on Scott Alexander. That's leading up to the Canelo Alvarez Jermel Charlo fight taking place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, courtesy of Canelo Promotions. The lineup will also see former light heavyweight champion Alexander Govtik battle Brazil's Isaac Rodrigues in an 8-round duel, while 2012 U.S. Olympian Tyrell Gausha faces Keandre Leatherwood in an 8-round middleweight bout. So good stuff happening that night. Coming up in December, at a press conference held the other day, Jesse Bam Bam, or as he says, Bam Rodrigues, and Sonny Edwards came face-to-face for the first time at a press conference in Orlando ahead of their blockbuster flyweight unification clash at the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. That's to take place on Saturday, December 16th, and will be shown on DAZN worldwide. So a pretty good press conference. Jesse said, "I've never been one to say no to a fight. I've always said yes. This was the best versus the best. It's what every boxer dreams of, unifying titles. December 16th is going to be a movie." Right on. Okay. Now, let's move along to Conor Benn, and I will be brief. As we all know, Conor Benn was cleared to return by the National Anti-Doping Panel in the UK in July, and even blew off the cobwebs blew off the cobwebs, as we all know, over the weekend with a unanimous points win over tough Mexican Rodolfo Orozco. But an emotional Benn told Sun Sports afterwards, with a tear in his eye, that months of hell had killed him and left him contemplating his career. The British Boxing Board of Control Chief Robert Smith blasted before the 10-rounder in Orlando that Benn shouldn't have been allowed back in the ring until he was cleared by all the regulators. The BBBOC and VADA, who failed Benn twice in the lead up to the original Eubank fight, both appealed his reinstatement. But Brighton-based Benn, who tested positive for the fertility drug clomiphene, which is a banned substance, has always insisted his innocence. He blamed it on eating a bunch of eggs. Anyway, after failing to land a knockout for the first time since August 2021, he did put in 10 rounds, got more than he bargained for, I might add, against a very tough Rodolfo Orozco, but moved on to 22-0 and settled for a decision. So Conor Benn is back in the ring, at least in America, and won't be allowed to fight in the UK until the administrators figure it all out. And we as fans don't really care. What we do like to see is fighting. And as many people, including Eddie Hearn, have gotten involved in this, here's kind of like where it gets a bit confusing. Texas can ultimately ignore that Benn failed 2 drug tests, with his promoter Eddie Hearn insisting he's cleared to fight. In reality, though, it's a vast gray area, and this is courtesy of worldboxingnews.net. It's a vast gray area. The BBBOC is sure Benn is not yet cleared his name, hence the actions against Benn. We're appealing, along with UCAD, it's UKAD, and NADP's decision. We're waiting for a date. We're a bit frustrated that that date takes so long. We're ready to go. I understand UCAD is ready to go. We've asked for a date as soon as possible. We're very disappointed with the original decision. If we were to lose the next one, we would be disappointed. but we'd have to take on the boards and what the decision is. Then we would decide what we need to do regarding allowing Benn to fight in the UK, said Hearn. So he's a bit upset, and in fact had something really quite negative to say. A chap by the name of, let's say his last name's Conte. I know he's been in trouble before in the UK, but anyway, you British guys know who I'm talking about. Hearn fired back at Conte in what seemed to be a potential threat of action against him. Another lie by you. Stand by, stated Hearn. Conte responded to the matchroom boss. I do my best to be a truth speaker and advocate for clean boxing. Previously, Conte had questioned the WBC's belief that Benn tested positive for the drug due to overconsumption of eggs, as I said earlier. He cited the case of Canelo Alvarez, who faced a 6-month ban for clenbuterol despite providing evidence of the food he suspected of being the culprit. If chicken eggs are suspected of clomiphene exposure, then Conor Benn must identify the brand to be tested by the WADA lab. Benn can fight under alternative jurisdiction despite the BBBOC not permitting him to fight in the UK. Seeking out alternate licensing through Texas meant Benn could battle in Florida. However, BBBOC Secretary Robert Smith insisted Benn is not clear to fight and should not be competing in his valued opinion. The entire situation remains questionable, not only by Conte, but many in the sport. This means a swift conclusion is necessary before Benn attempts to fight again. So there you have it, boxing fans. Joe Joyce has got to retire. That's the underlying theme, I think. You hit a point where you got to go and hang them up. And as I've said, with respect to many other fighters who face that very same decision, your health is more important. And quite frankly, Joe Joyce's brain has got to be hurting. The other brain who's got to be hurting is Deontay Wilder. So the heavyweight division will be shaken up. We're starting to see a whole lot of other heavyweight names in boxing. Good to see it. Anyway, I didn't like that Sandy Ryan call, by the way. Don't know why that judge was calling it by such a wide margin. That upset me. I think Sandy Ryan should have won. But other than that, I look forward to seeing who Zhilei Zhang can beat up next. And of course, we all look forward to Tyson Fury getting knocked out by Ngannou and Anthony Joshua. Where's his career going? Who knows? Anyway, the people in the middle of all this are guys like 90-plus-year-old Bob Arum. Even Don King is still promoting. Eddie Hearn, who our commentator Lou Eisen has nothing good to say about on several levels, and has called him a culprit several times. This management has to change. Fighters have to be allowed to fight, and the best should be fighting the best. That's what I got to say today. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you later on at 4 p.m. when I join Mike Gore at 4 Eastern Time for his show, Knuckle Up. Thank you.